The story begins in a future America where the military has taken over the government and the country has turned into a strict dictatorship. One man rules everything, Major. Under his control, people have lost their freedom. Fear and obedience are the only things left in life. To keep citizens distracted and under control, the government starts a deadly competition called the Long Walk. In this event, 50 participants are chosen, and the one who keeps walking until the very end becomes the winner. The prize, fame, fortune, and one wish, anything they desire. The entire walk is broadcast live across the country, so everyone can watch and learn the value of hard work. This year, from the state of Maine, a young boy named Ray is selected. His mother, Jenny, drives him to the starting point, completely silent and full of fear. She begs him to give up this deadly race, but Ray calmly says, "Mom, it's my choice." When they reach, Jenny hugs her son tightly, crying, while Ray stays strong and walks ahead. At the starting point, Ray meets a cheerful guy named Peter, and the other participants are chatting nervously. One boy named Curly keeps pacing around, claiming he's 18, though no one really believes him. Soon, Major himself arrives. He gives each walker a metal tag with their number and says, "You're not boys anymore. You're men now." Then he delivers a powerful speech, saying the long walk reminds people of the value of effort and endurance, especially after the devastating war that nearly destroyed the country. Every year after this event, the nation's productivity rises, and Major believes that the real enemy of the people is laziness. As he speaks, soldiers put speed tracking bracelets on each participant. Major explains the rules. There's no finish line. They must keep walking until only one person remains. Each walker must maintain a speed of 3 miles per hour. Slow down once, and you get your first warning. 10 seconds later, if you don't speed up, the second warning. After the third, you're shot dead. Step off the road even once, and you're instantly killed without warning. Major ends his speech by shouting for everyone to scream together. Then he raises his gun, fires into the air, and the long walk begins. The boys begin their deadly journey, walking down the long, empty highway. Behind them, army trucks follow closely, recording every single move for the live broadcast. The roads are silent. Only a few locals are allowed to watch from nearby towns. As the walkers pass by, a policeman salutes them, but Gary, annoyed and rebellious, shows him the middle finger and spits on the road. In the beginning, everyone walks quietly and seriously, focusing on the rules. But once they cross the 5th mile, the tension starts to fade, and they begin talking to each other. Suddenly, Stebbins slows down a little, and immediately a warning alarm goes off. Shocked, he speeds up again. The others whisper that maybe he did it on purpose, just to test the system. A while later, Gary's shoe gets a small stone inside. He stops for a second to fix it, but the soldiers start giving him warnings one after another. Just before the 3rd warning expires, the moment before death, Gary quickly puts on his shoe and keeps walking. Everyone calls him crazy, but Gary laughs and says, "At least I got a small break." As they cross the 7th mile, the boys begin talking about what they'll do if they win. Arthur says he's only here for the money, but Ray replies, "There are things more important than money." The others laugh, but Ray gets serious. He says, "The government wants us to think we chose this game, but the truth is, they made us so poor and helpless that we had no other choice." Some boys get scared, warning him that such talk might not look good on live TV. But Peter agrees with Ray and says if he wins, he'll use the money to help others. Peter lights up a cigarette. Hank tells him to stop, but Arthur smiles and says, "Share one with me, too." Everyone laughs and relaxes for a while. Then Richard, another participant, pushes forward through the group. He's been noting everyone's names and numbers because he plans to write a book about the long walk and become famous. Peter jokes, "If you win, you'll already be rich and famous. Why need a book?" Suddenly, a loud scream breaks the laughter. Curly collapses in pain. His leg muscles cramp badly, and he can barely move. Soldiers warn him, but Ray and Peter try to help, shouting, "Come on, keep walking." Curly struggles, trembling with pain, but finally falls to the ground. The soldiers give the final warning, and without hesitation, a gunshot echoes. Curly is dead. Everyone goes silent. Ray's steps slow down, his heart shaking after watching his first death. A warning beeps for him too, but Peter shouts, "Keep walking, Ray." Stopping means death. A little later, Major himself walks onto the road and gives another speech. He says, "A brave man has fallen today, and we must honor his sacrifice." His words sound noble, but everyone knows he's just keeping the show going. Ray quietly asks a soldier to refill his canteen, and as the soldier leans closer, Ray lightly touches the gun, almost like he's daring death to come closer. A few minutes later, Peter feels an urgent need to pee, but since stopping means death, he just goes right there on the road while walking. The other boys burst out laughing, but deep inside, they all feel the growing tension and fear in the air. When the walkers reach the 17th mile, they see a little girl standing by the road, calling out Ray's name and cheering for him. The boys tease him, saying, "Look, Ray, you already have a fan." Even though she's just a small kid, everyone laughs. For a brief moment, the heavy mood lightens up, but suddenly one boy ahead of them falls to the ground having a seizure. The soldiers start shouting warnings. Without any concern, Gary jumps over the dying boy and says mockingly, "See? Hidden diseases finally pay off." Seconds later, a gunshot rings out. The boy is dead. Gary smirks and says, "One less competitor. Better chances for me." As they cross the 25th mile, Gary begins bullying a new walker named Rank. Rank ignores him at first, but when Gary insults his mother, Rank loses control and punches him. Gary dodges easily, and Rank slips, crashing hard onto the road. Before he can stand, the soldiers fire. Rank falls lifeless. The group explodes with anger. They shout at Gary, "You sick bastard! We can't wait for your turn to die." Gary just laughs, unfazed. Later, another boy tries to relieve himself while walking, but slows down too much, and within seconds, he's also shot dead. The others keep walking in silence, their faces pale with exhaustion and fear. When they finally reach the 35th mile, Major returns once more, congratulating them for surviving the first night. He gives another long speech filled with patriotic words, calling their suffering a service to the nation. But the boys know the truth. It's just part of the show. Meanwhile, Ray starts feeling dizzy from exhaustion. His eyes close and he begins to dream of his mother. As his speed drops, soldiers give him a warning. Peter quickly shakes him awake. "Ray, wake up or you'll get shot." As they walk again, the two talk about their families and their reasons for joining the race. But soon Ray slows down once more, earning a second warning. He pushes himself to walk faster, but stumbles and falls hard on the road, triggering the third warning. Now, according to the rules, he must walk 3 straight hours without a single mistake, or he's dead. Peter encourages him to keep going, but Ray, frustrated and scared, snaps, "Stop pretending, Peter. You don't really care about me." The boys now reach a steep mountain road, and walking here becomes tougher than ever before. The climb is long, sharp, and brutal. Within minutes, everyone starts gasping for air. Some boys collapse from exhaustion, and the soldiers, without a second thought, shoot them dead. Ray tries not to look back, because every step reminds him that death is walking right behind them. But Gary keeps mocking him, throwing insults just to break his focus. Ray's speed starts to drop, but Peter quickly grabs his arm, stopping him from falling. Ray smiles weakly and says, "I'm sorry, brother, for yelling at you earlier." By sunrise, they finally cross the 59th mile. After all the deaths on the hill, only 18 walkers are left now. When they reach the 67th mile, Hank starts losing his strength. Peter tries to help him, but Hank angrily shouts, "Stay away from me!" On the other side, Richard twists his ankle and begins to slow down. Soldiers warn him, but Ray encourages, "Keep walking, man. You can do it." Sadly, Richard's body gives up. He falls to the ground, unable to move. The soldiers walk up and shoot him in the head, right in front of 2 small children watching from the roadside. The kids scream, terrified by the sight. When the group finally crosses the 100-mile mark, Major appears again, clapping proudly. He congratulates them for their bravery, pretending this nightmare is some heroic act. But suddenly, one desperate boy tries to run into a nearby building to escape. Without hesitation, the soldiers gun him down on the spot. As they pass the 103rd mile, the remaining boys start talking about their deepest wishes. Peter softly says, "I wish I could ask for something that lets 2 people win together." But Ray replies firmly, "If I win, I'll change the whole system." The others laugh bitterly, saying no wish can change the government or its rules. Anger builds up among them. They begin cursing Major and this cruel game. By evening, heavy rain begins to fall. Ray is half conscious now, barely able to walk, while Peter supports him with all his strength. When dawn breaks and they cross the 144th mile, Arthur tries to relieve himself while walking, but slows down and immediately gets a warning. Scared, he leaves it unfinished and forces himself to keep moving. To fight off exhaustion, the boys keep talking. Ray then shares a painful memory about his father. "He was my hero. He used to teach me banned subjects like philosophy. The government called him a traitor, but to me, he was the greatest man alive. For the first time, Ray opens up completely. He tells Peter that Major once ordered his father to quit studying and swear loyalty to him, but his father refused and was hanged right in front of everyone. Ray's eyes fill with rage as he says, "That's why I joined the Long Walk, so I can get close enough to Major and kill him myself." He looks around at the cheering crowds along the road and adds bitterly, "These people disgust me. They laugh while watching us die, like it's some entertainment show." Peter tries to calm Ray down. He tells him, "These people aren't evil, Ray. They're victims too. The system has brainwashed everyone to believe this walk is holy, that it's an honor to die in it." When the boys cross the 171st mile, no one speaks anymore. Everyone's faces are blank, just pain and survival. One boy's feet start bleeding badly, and he tries to climb onto one of the army trucks for help, but a soldier kicks him off, and the truck crushes his legs as it moves forward. He screams in unbearable pain, begging for mercy. Warnings sound, and finally, a bullet ends his suffering. The horrifying sight drives another boy completely insane. He tears off his clothes and runs screaming down the road, and just like that, the soldiers shoot him too. By evening, Hank notices one of his teeth has fallen out, a sign that his body is collapsing. The group finally reaches the 201st mile, and Hank is barely standing. Ray tries to encourage him, but Hank has already given up. Slowly, he turns toward the soldier's truck and lets them shoot him. Seeing his friend die, Arthur loses control and runs to hold Hank's body, but the soldiers warn him immediately. Ray grabs him and pulls him back just in time to save his life. By the next morning, they cross the 209th mile. Now only 6 walkers remain. The boys remember that Hank had a wife, and they all agree that whoever wins will give a share of the prize money to her. Gary stays silent, feeling left out. After a while, he comes to Ray and admits that Rank's death still haunts him. He says he never meant to hurt that boy. It was an accident. He apologizes but insists it wasn't really his fault. Then he promises that if he wins, he'll give Hank's wife some money too. The group accepts him again. They keep walking together, but Gary's guilt and pain keep growing inside. Suddenly, he snaps, screaming at everyone and charging ahead. Before anyone can stop him, he pulls out a knife and stabs himself, trying to end his own misery. The soldiers immediately warn him and then shoot him in the head. Gary falls lifeless on the road. Now, as they cross the 261st mile, the few survivors try to fight exhaustion by singing songs, their broken voices echoing through the empty highway. By the 5th day, they reach the 278th mile, finally entering Ray's hometown. Arthur teases him, saying, "You're lucky, Ray. You'll get to see your mom." But Ray doesn't smile. For him, it's not a blessing. It's a curse. He whispers, "I'll see her again," only to leave her once more. As they walk through the 286th mile, Ray's shoe breaks apart. Arthur warns him that walking unevenly will make it worse, so Ray just takes both shoes off. Everyone can see his feet, swollen, bleeding, and torn apart. Then suddenly he spots Ginny, his mother, standing by the road with tears in her eyes. Overcome with emotion, Ray runs toward her, but Ginny steps back and cries, "Stay on the road!" Right then, Peter grabs Ray and pulls him back just in time, before the soldiers open fire. Ray screams in agony, shouting to his crying mother, "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm no different from Dad." As the long walk goes on, Peter finally opens up to Ray about his past. He says his parents were killed during the war, and after that, he was sent to live with his uncle, a cruel man who used to beat and starve him. When Peter turned 10, his uncle also died, leaving him all alone in the world. From then on, Peter had to survive on the streets, stealing food, fighting to stay alive. One day during a street fight, his opponent slashed his face with a knife, leaving a deep scar and sending him to the hospital. Peter blamed himself for everything, but that same day, he made a promise that no matter how dark life gets, he'll always search for light. He tells Ray that if he wins the long walk, he'll use his prize money to help orphaned kids like him. As the boys cross the 306th mile, Stebbins says something cold. He tells everyone to stop helping each other, because if they keep doing that, this walk will never end. The others agree, even though it breaks their hearts. A little later, Arthur's nose starts bleeding badly. Everyone pretends not to see it. They know helping him means risking their own lives. Seeing this, Key loses control. He screams in rage, grabs a soldier's gun, and tries to shoot Arthur. But before he can, the soldiers fire back and shoot him down. Refusing to let them take his life, Key shoots himself before the soldiers can finish him off. When the group reaches the 324th mile, Arthur's condition worsens. His nose keeps bleeding, and Peter and Ray try to hold him up as they walk. But Arthur knows and his time is over. He quietly asks them, "If you win, please give my locket to my grandmother." Then he tells them not to look back when he stops walking. Slowly, Arthur turns toward the soldier's truck, and they shoot him. A few moments later, night collapses too. Now only 3 boys remain: Ray, Peter, and Stebbins. As they cross a long bridge, the major keeps walking behind them, giving his meaningless speeches. Ray finally loses his temper and shouts curses at him. But the major doesn't even flinch. He smiles and says, "That's the killer instinct every winner needs." That's when Stebbins reveals a dark secret. He's one of the major's many illegitimate sons. He says his biggest dream was to live in his father's house, but now he knows his body's shutting down. He looks at the others and says softly, "Walking with you guys has been an honor, and I'm glad the winner will be either Peter or Ray." Then Stebbins finally stops walking. The soldiers raise their guns and shoot him. The major doesn't react. To him, this wasn't tragedy. It was just another part of the show. A few moments later, heavy rain starts pouring down. Ray admits that at first he used to fear death, but after watching so many boys die, he's no longer afraid. He knows this moment, this final stretch, truly matters. As they cross the 331st mile, the boys reach a city. Huge crowds are waiting on both sides of the road, cheering and clapping like it's a grand celebration. Peter suddenly stops and turns to Ray. With tears in his eyes, he says he wants to quit, so that Ray can go home to his mother. But Ray refuses. He shakes his head and says, "No, Peter, we have to keep walking." Till the very end, Peter nods and keeps moving forward, unaware that Ray has stopped behind him. Within seconds, the soldiers raise their guns and shoot Ray. Peter instantly turns back, screaming his name, but it's too late. The soldiers grab Peter, now the only one left, the final winner. As Ray lies dying in the rain, he looks at Peter and whispers his last words, "I love you." Then he turns toward his mother, Ginny, and softly says, "I'm sorry, Mom." The major steps forward, raises his gun, and fires the final shot, ending Ray's life. The crowd goes wild, cheering like it's a victory parade. Fireworks explode in the sky, while Peter just stands there, completely broken. The major walks up to him and proudly says, "Congratulations, son. You're the winner. What's your wish?" Peter looks down, holding back his tears, and quietly says, "I want a soldier's gun, so one day I can give it to my children as a symbol of my victory." The soldiers hesitate, but the major smiles and says, "He's an honorable man. Grant his wish," as Peter lifts the gun in his trembling hands. He slowly raises it toward the major. The major tries to calm him down, offering him money, fame, and power. But Peter, with tears streaming down his face, whispers, "This is for Ray," and shoots him dead. The crowd gasps. Fireworks still light up the dark sky. Peter drops the gun, turns around, and silently walks into the distance. And with that, the long walk comes to a haunting, powerful end.